Welcome to Recovery the Whole Enchilada, the podcast dedicated to exploring the many layers of healing and growth within the recovery community. I'm your host, Peg McDermott, along with my beautiful, wonderful, lovely co-host, Heather Hageman. And together we share conversations that honor the complete recovery experience. And today's conversation is about new beginnings. And it's spring here in Northern Virginia, and the trees are starting to blossom. And I love spring in Virginia. It's very pretty. You know, new beginnings and adding healthy things, or maybe starting up healthy things that we did before we got into a very difficult drinking pattern in our lives. And what we're doing today to widen our horizons, because our world was pretty small when we were drinking, right?
Yes. Yeah. And, and I think part of the joy of living a sober life is to discover or even rediscover things that used to be inspiring to us, or we used to. I know that I think I might have shared somewhere on here, but there was just I remember when I was like 13 years old, and at springtime, I would go around and I would pick all the little flowers out there and I'd press them. I had a little presser thing, and I would make these little pressed little flower frame them like little things, what I'm talking about? And I would get I really I love the little purple and the little white violets that come up. They're like, they come up, and I guess we think of them as weeds or something, Era, because you don't really grow them. They're just wild. The wild violets. They're gorgeous. And so I love pressing them. And I used to do that. And I used to draw little pictures of fairies sitting underneath the little violets. So I'd make these little fairy worlds. And, this I'm 12, 13 years old. And so in sobriety, as you get time and you're going along, and as spring comes again, and I get inspired by those little flowers, and I got a little presser machine this time, and I press them now. And I used to press them between book pages. And I love that. And then I started thinking, well, I gotta get into drying herbs and making salves and lotions. And I try all these things once, and usually I'm like, that's good enough, like in sobriety, it's good enough. Okay, moving on. But I really enjoyed it. Like, I found lemon balm, and I made like a lemon balm oil thing that kind of did get rancid after a while, because, it does, just making fresh stuff like that. You learn what to do and what not to do. But lemon balm was really nice. And lavender, oh my gosh, I really got into making lavender, yoga pillows, little tiny yoga pillows for the eyes. Anything like that for you that you could think of that you started to do a little bit of?
I love your fairy story, because I see that in your home. Like, you've got fairy lights everywhere, and you sort of recreated that childhood magic in your home. And I always feel that when I'm there, and it's awesome. So you've kept that alive, which is nice. And I would say when I was younger, I was definitely more active outside. And so I rode my bike a lot. I sledded a lot. I played fast pitch softball and basketball and soccer. And that was my way of belonging, because I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And so sports helped me to sort of create this identity and be around other players and fall into a structure that you need to follow when you're training for any kind of sport. And I would climb trees and build tree houses, and I played Stratego, and I played Operation and things like that. Like, I didn't really play with dolls or anything like that. I was more of a little bit of a tomboy, but I so enjoyed being outside and just enjoying nature and my pets, of course, I adored, and biking with my friends. And so as I got older, my preferences started to change and be more adult-like. And I continued to play softball for many years and racquetball. And I enjoyed that because it's good cardio, and I enjoyed the workout. with racquetball. With softball, that was more around drinking because we would drink after every game. And I played 4 times a week. So there you go. I was like, I love the game, but I really loved the drinking that went with it. And when I got sober, I really had to stop playing softball because as much as I enjoyed it, I also started to take up golf. And I've never really associated drinking with golf because I've never really drank when I golfed. But definitely with softball, there was a huge, powerful association between playing and drinking. And it was a drinking mentality. All the players drank. I mean, it was just, you'd go down to the bar after the game that sponsored your team and you would drink. And I had tried that a couple times after I'd stopped drinking, and it wasn't the same. And I found I was losing interest in it. And also I was getting older and didn't want to keep scraping my knees by sliding into second base all the time. I also found, like you had mentioned earlier, when I started drinking, which was around the age of 18, and that was the legal drinking age in New York at the time, things got a lot wilder for me. And, we would drive and drink and go to parties and just do dumb things. And, yeah, that's what my world sort of revolved around that. When I went to school, when I went away to go to school, it revolved around alcohol and school. And I'd come home on spring break or winter break or whatever, and we'd drink. And it was about alcohol. And it really became the central point in my life until I stopped at 36. Now, it took me a while when I first got sober to find my identity again. And what is it that I like? What is it that I don't like? And, working in our program and with others that have been in sober for a while, you learn some new healthy habits and hobbies that I don't associate with drinking. And that's where I spend a lot of my time, as far as doing fun things. And that's the key. And then because I know you said you wanted to share something and I'm just going on and on, but I do like the idea of rediscovering the kid in me again, because we had such unfettered joy when we were children, and even in a difficult childhood, there were parts of us that really just could see the magic in the world. And I had lost that. And what I realized is that my life had become very one-dimensional. And I didn't realize how important play was. I did as a kid because we do it naturally. But as I became an adult and made alcohol my new sport, I really lost that sense of magic and play and adventure.
One of the reasons we're talking about this, Peg, is that we're talking about how to enjoy our leisure time, right? And how to replace the addiction leisure time with hobbies. And, I think, for me, focusing a lot on activities that kind of boost my self-esteem and reduce my anxiety is kind of what I'm looking at. But to be able to not go towards a relapse because I don't know what to do with myself when I have downtime. I've heard this a lot in people in early recovery. They don't know what to do when they have downtime. Now, I know for me in those early years, I hung out with people in recovery. I went to dinner. I did a lot of things and group activities. But as time went on, like you said, it's like trying to find something that really is like brings that awe and wonder back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because you were talking about softball and how it was paired with drinking. And so for me, I was a watercolorist. I loved painting. And I was prolific and painted a lot, but I was drinking. I always had a buzz on, okay, when I painted. And particularly, well, I would paint and then I would go over it with black ink. And so I would be I would be really buzzed because I could really get into the lines and details and, and I loved that. And then I get sober and now I can't do that anymore. And I actually think I can't do the art anymore. And so for 5 years, I did not do any art. When I was doing a lot of art, I stopped doing art. And I basically was trying to figure out, how do I bring that back in? And I don't know if I told the story here, but there, I got wind of a workshop. It was in Virginia Beach, and it was called Intuitive Painting. And are your monsters robbing you of your
You,
creativity? I love the
yeah,
title of that workshop. I thought, oh
that's
my God,
awesome.
I got to go to that workshop. And so anyway, it turns out Juliet Cameron was the person that was the workshop person, and she had written a book called The Artist's
Mhm.
Way, and some of you may be familiar with that. But it was interesting because she did pretty much an inventory, had us do an inventory on what was blocking us from from being an artist, from being creative. And she really wanted us to kind of look into our whole life. Like, just even from the beginning, like as a child, people said my art was really good. And then I would think, oh, I want to be an artist. But then my parents would be like, no, you get a day job and you can be an artist. Like, you're not going to make any money being an artist. And so it was really downplayed. So I never wanted to pursue it, but I just did it on the side. But here we are years later now. I'm sober, I'm 5 years sober, and I want to get back into my art. And so I found it just happened. It all fell into my lap. A way of painting. It's called intuitive painting. And it was at this woman's house, and I would go over there and we would meditate as a group, and then we would just paint on paper with no attachment to the end result. So it was more about the process of painting and the paint on paper. And we would be in this room, and the woman who ran it, she would walk up to you, because if I stopped to look at what I was looking at, she'd say, are you in your
Mm.
thoughts? This is just paint on paper. The, so it released me of this idea that I had to produce a product. And it gave me the experience of being in present moment, a joy of just paint on paper. And when I was given that freedom, Peg, starting off at little tiny little pieces of paper ended up to be wall-sized pictures
Mm.
that I did. And that was so incredible. I had never painted from my true self. I was agonizingly painting from copying out here. This was coming from inside of me. This was sober painting, and it was so profound. And I loved it. Loved it. And with that opening of that door of creativity, so many things opened up for me. And I began to try many different things. And I started to generate a bucket list of things I want to
Mm.
do, hobbies and experiences I want to do, places I want to go see. And so just recently, Peg, at this Irish festival, St. Patrick's Day festival, I bought myself a hot pink cowboy hat, girlfriend.
How come I've not seen that on you yet?
Well, I just wore it on Saturday, and I walked around with my hot pink. And it's so funny because my daughter was like, really? And my husband was like, really? I go, yeah, I've always wanted to have a hot pink
Mm.
cowboy hat, and today is
I
the
love it.
day. And this is how I live my life now, guys.
Mhm.
Things happen. It's like, I always wanted to go to Japan. And then the owner of the studio says, hey, would you like to take a retreat to Japan? Oh my gosh. I would love to do that. I've always wanted to go to Costa Rica and see Tommy Rosen, who's a great yogi. I got in on that. I did that. I mean, this is what starts to happen. Oh my gosh, it becomes so
I
fun.
know. And allowing yourself to have fun. I would hold it back for, like, when I was younger, we couldn't really start watching cartoons, or in my case, I loved Soul Train at the time because I would dance in front of the TV. And I wasn't able to do that until after we got all our chores done. And so what I learned was there's no fun until you get all the work done. And I had to really rein that in because I got to the point where I would not allow myself to do any kind of fun things until my to-do list was completely done. And guess what? A to-do list is never done, ever. And so I had to relearn fun because I associated so much fun with drinking We bowled and we played darts and we played ball and we did, all kinds of things. And I have learned to do those things again, not softball, but other things like we went bowling the other night with a bunch of friends, all sober, celebrating a friend's birthday. It was a blast. I bowled horribly, but I was stone cold sober and enjoyed every minute of it. Enjoyed the people around me. We had great conversations. That to me is fun, is meeting new people and talking to them and finding out more about their lives. And then just things like hobbies. I've never really thought of myself of having a hobby, but golf is a hobby to me. I love it. We'll go out and it's usually the golf courses are absolutely beautiful and well maintained, and you see all kinds of wildlife when you're out there and the sun is shining, and it's just a really nice pastime. And you really get to know people over those 4 or 5 hours. And you're walking and breathing in fresh air, and I really loved that. And I loved racquetball, but my body said, no, Peg, it's time to move on. And I picked up pickleball. And I love pickleball. I've never drank ever playing pickleball because I just took it up like 3 years ago. And so I don't associate that with alcohol. And I don't play pickleball with people that drink. Like they'll have social drinks if we go out for dinner after a game. They'll have a glass of wine or a beer. That wasn't my story. And that doesn't bother me. So I love that you brought up bucket list because I've had to almost retrain myself, basically say, Peg, it's okay to have fun. It doesn't mean that you're not getting stuff done. It doesn't mean that you're slacking or slothing. It just means that that's part of life. It's part of life. It's what brings it color and depth. And I said, you know what? I'm going to listen to music more. I'm going to listen to music more in my car. And I love it. And I'm listening to more books on tape. And I love it. And those are little things for me, but it's a big deal because for me, it's in the play bucket. And play and me didn't always coincide because of the messages I had learned growing up and because my world had gotten so small when I started drinking. And so I had to open things up again over the course of sobriety and look at other sober people like you. And, when you go to an Irish festival, that would have been a blast. I wish I had gone with you. And you can be around it and have fun and not even think about drinking, not even once, even if people around you are. And St. Patrick's Day used to be a big drinking holiday for me. Didn't even think about it on St. Patrick's Day.
And just this being open-minded. And just recently, my daughter said, I really want you to come try this dance class. I'm like, oh my God, a dance class. And it was an African dance class. And it was we had big mirrors and it was in this big studio. And I had no idea what to expect. I mean, she said, Mom, you can do it. And I loved it. The music was really loud. It was great dancing music. The guy was just hilarious. All he did was just smile and laugh. And you just followed what he did. And for one entire hour, going back and across the room, and I was looking in the mirror at myself because I haven't danced in a long time with a mirror in front of me. And I said to my daughter, do you think that mirror is really like an actual rendering? Or is that mirror? And she said, yeah, it's a mirror, Mom. Yes, that's how you look. I said, you know what? I'm pretty good. I was like, looking at myself. I was like, and I could never dance. Oh my gosh, without drinking? Holy no way. I don't think I danced until a group of us, we went downtown to a club and we tried to dance. We had not danced in years. Okay. So there's so much we can do still. And that's what I want to have all of you, if you're new, life's not over. It's the beginning. It's a new beginning. Spring doesn't come in a rush. It comes in a pause. And these things that we start to add into our lives, We want to be patient with ourselves. We want to check it out. Does this feel safe? Does this not feel safe? Like, where are we? Does this remind me of when I used to do this or that? Oh my gosh. But I just cannot tell you. Oh, I have so many smiles in my heart of things that I've done now in sobriety that I never thought I would do, you know, just so many things. I will not jump out of a plane though. That's one thing that I did want to do, but I don't think I will ever do that. That will not be my thing to do. But it can be, I just want you to all be very imaginative on what can help boost your endorphins, because this is a lot of what's happening here. You're getting those feel good hormones going again, and it regulates your mood. So just like, could be like the physical activities of cycling, running, yoga, the creative outlets that really are great ways to process our emotions through writing, through photography. I've shared here before that I'm writing a book. I never thought that I would do that, but I have a editor and a publisher that is waiting for my book. And I mean, who would have thought someone who really thought they did terrible in English is writing a book? So we're good. But volunteering, in different aspects like this, there's so many different things. The gardening. Now, I was never one to play in the dirt, and now I am like full-time gardener. I mean, I love mixing and matching plants and herbs, and I have a whole deck that I just make it a beautiful fairy garden. These are things that I just have come to me along the way. So just being kind to yourself and experiment, like commit to something new weekly, maybe that gives you some kind of joy. Like just explore these things. Think back to activities you did long ago that, but don't feel pressured to have to master a skill. These are like, try not to be hard on yourself. I've got to master this, but I've always wanted to try this. I've always wanted to just one little thing. Do you have anything right now in mind, Peg, that you've always wanted to do and you haven't done yet?
Yes, there's several things I want to do before I leave this earth. And one of them
Okay.
was and is going on a Christmas cruise down the Rhine River in Europe, and it's planned for next Christmas. So it's
Wonderful.
So each stop will be like a little Christmas fair, and there's Christmas lights, and it's just going to be wonderful. And it's called a Christmas cruise. It's on one of the river cruise lines. Oh, yeah, and it's like so like magical. You're on a river and you're seeing all the things that one would see when they're on the Rhine River. And I think we start, I don't know that it's only the Rhine, but we start in Switzerland and we end in Amsterdam. And like, yeah,
Wow.
and it's not cheap, but you know what? I can save for it because it's not until next Christmas, 2027. And I'm very much looking forward to it. Going out to concerts again. Like that was one thing I did when I was drinking a lot. And I missed half the concerts because I usually passed out. And now I've gone to one of my favorite venues here in the Northern Virginia area is called Wolf Trap. And it's a great venue. The sound system is fantastic. The acoustics are fantastic. So I've gone to more concerts there, just sitting on the lawn with friends and listening to music. Going to a concert this week, actually, in DC. So, yeah, the things is like, I'm saying yes more. I'm saying yes to things that I used to do more of that I stopped because of the drinking association that I've rediscovered and doing so sober and traveling. A friend of mine and I want to travel to Italy. And so I want to go to Europe. That's one of my bucket lists. And so, that's the kind of thing that makes it's not all about work. It's not all about drudgery. It's about the many kind of layers of life. And one of them, the big layers, is having fun, is enjoying your life and slowing down. Like you had referred to earlier about spring just sort of evolves. The trees aren't rushing to bloom. The azaleas aren't rushing to bloom. They just bloom in their time. And nature can teach us so many wonderful things. And that's one of them, is slowing down and really taking it in, because that really is the true pace of life. You know, if we stop long enough to just sort of be where our feet are, and that was one of the things I didn't do when I was drinking. And I've learned life goes by fast. And I'm so glad that I'm not doing it drunk anymore. I'm doing it sober. But I could still get into workaholism, and that's an ism, right? So I have to look at that and say, no, I'm going to go out and have some fun. I'm going to play hooky tomorrow afternoon and play golf or whatever. I think saying yes more, rediscovering the things that you did when you were drinking that you stopped doing, that you know you can safely start up again. And if it doesn't feel safe, you'll know, and you don't do it.
Yeah. This is this slow living trend that's coming out where we just take that pause, just notice, and so that you can see the little buds, the new beginnings in your life. And the nature is such a mirror of that for us. And I'm going to be heading off to Ireland and talk about a little dream come true. My son is taking us, my grown son and his dad, and so it'll be the three of us. And he plotted the whole thing, all the places we'll be staying. And I love it because I have a memory of being 10 years old in Ireland, celebrating my 10th birthday. And I was standing in a field of heather, and there's a picture of me, Heather in the heather.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and so hopefully we'll find a field of heather. Maybe, hopefully, I don't know if they'll be blooming, but I'm excited. And I will stay in today because I do get worried about flying and all that fun stuff. And there's things that we have to deal with, right, when we do these things. But we have tools now, and we can, especially when we do this together. You know, we are a we program. We are doing all this together. We're not alone anymore. And I think that's the beauty of it all. So I love you, Peg, and thank you so much. This is such a wonderful moment, and I'm so excited by spring always. And I'm going to go out and take pictures of every little flower. That's one thing I love to do. And what I'd love to do is just print them up or paint them. I'd like to paint them with fairies. And I have all my watercolors and everything set up for me to do that. And I just have to do it. Just do it, as they say. Just do it.
And make sure you post pictures of your creations, please.
Okay.
And for all of you, thank you for joining us on this episode of Recovery, the Whole Enchilada. And if you connected with today's episode, please share it and like it and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Your feedback does help us to shape future conversations. We love you. And remember that your recovery story, with all its flavors and textures and complexities, matters deeply. And until next time, stay strong, keep growing, and go out and smell some flowers.